At least that's true with the
Yeah, I have to dime it tonight. It's a gamble.
That is a gamble. If my phone goes off, I apologize. It's on zero, so when it pops up, I don't know what's gonna.
I'm sure it's gonna get us.
All right.
You're like my phone.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order at, I believe it's 6:02. 6:02. All right, we just have really, this is a special meeting of the library board, and we just really have two items. Unfortunately, Tim is going to be leaving us, so we need to hire
I plan to remain as a patron and I'm still gonna be on the foundation. So I'm not like,
so you're not gonna be a complete
no,
stranger.
I'll be at programs, I love the library, so.
Are you Nate?
I am. Maybe, yeah.
Okay, so since we're gonna miss Tim,
Thank you.
but we need a director, so
Gotta have.
hire somebody. So tonight, we're just going to have a general discussion about what we want to see in a job posting for a new director, and also we need to form a search committee for dealing with actual responses to be to the posted ad. So I should have printed these out, but I did send to you some sample job postings. I guess the only one that's really relevant is the sample school district library. There's another one that is a little bit shorter.
Hey, did you want to start with, was anyone here from the first, search? And do we have any, lessons learned and or things that we want to change from that search that was done 10 years ago?
I'll be going.
Barbara's the only one that was on the board back then.
Barbara, you're the sole source of historical information.
That's right. You've been on the board for 10 years or more.
I think the one thing that Tim maybe lacked when he came in was actual supervisory experience. Is that correct, Tim?
Well, I supervised as many as 9 at the Hall of Fame, but nowhere near, 65 people. And
Right.
no union experience at that time.
Right.
So,
And, my thought is that we may want to add that to the job description. Having familiarity with unions, doing reviews.
I think the sample posting includes, I mean, we don't have to do this, but it includes 3 years of library in administration or supervisory experience. I mean, that's what this is what UHLS suggests as a starting point for and it has some information about the library. Obviously, this is a much smaller library that they're talking about, but I know, Corey, you've done a lot of work on the library itself because of the long range planning committee. I know that you didn't have a meeting today, but I think you said you're having a meeting on Monday.
We are. Mm-hmm.
So you probably have a good description maybe of the library.
I don't have one worked up quite yet, but I can get it completed. We had started with our demographic information and things like that. So does this exist elsewhere, like on other job postings? Do we have a description of the library in the community?
I'm sure we do. And that's kind of a springboard just to say that while Sarah is not here, She offers her assistance if you guys need it in any way related to HR. But she also was cognizant of the fact that Elish has an HR background and that Tim Burke is a resource for you guys. So she didn't know if you'd be needed, but she has recently been putting together our job descriptions, which I presume have that in them. So
I called Tim Burke today, just to get some background, because he, knows a lot about library stuff, that in particular. And he's offered his assistance in any way that he can be helpful to us. And I think he'd be a very, very good person to consult as the process continues.
Do we have free reign on this job description, or because of the type of job it is, there's like not requirements, but it has to be like formatted a certain way? Like I'm kind of out of my element with like,
He suggested, and I think we all probably would agree, that we should have a list of questions, penetrating questions. You can take a look at the responsibilities that we sent, but we should really pattern our questions as a board as to what we're looking for and some of the place, and be very specific and pay careful attention to the responses.
because I'm thinking format, right? Like there's the like required, and then there's like the preferences, right? Where
Yeah.
like, you have the like, you have to have this minimum, and then preferred, like, if we are worried about like managerial experience, like over a mid-sized library or whatever the number that is, and then or this blah, blah, blah.
And then Natalie a while back shared the civil service requirements. So that's the stuff that we will for sure want to put into the requirements section, which is possession of a graduate library degree from a state in New York State or state education department, blah, blah, blah. 7 years of professional library experience and 3 years must have been in an administrative capacity. And then they have an additional note about that professional experience has to be post-MLS, postmaster's degree. So, I mean, that's the stuff that we'll want to include for sure in the requirements, because that's for the position itself.
And just kind of what we know from working with civil service all the time is those basic specs that you have from Natalie that were shared. That's what the person is going to have to pass in order to move from provisional to be permanent. So at some point after they start, they're going to get an exam and they have to take it and have to pass it. So those minimum standards, that's what that's for.
Okay.
But even, the way civil service works basically is you have a job description, you have specs from civil service, it spells out those things. But then internally, you can have your own kind of job,
Okay.
job title, like internal job title and job description that kind of uses that as a basis, but it's your own
That's
thing.
what I was getting at. I was
Yeah.
like,
So you're
do you
gonna
get to put
want,
in a little flavor, or
yeah,
is it like
you're gonna probably wanna post the full specs.
Right.
But then you have your own kind of pitch as to what this is,
Yeah.
and what you're looking for specifically to help guide
Well,
people.
the full specs are going to be the entry before anyone's interviewed. Yeah, obviously they have to meet the minimum requirements.
Yep.
And then after that, it's up to us to put together
There's-
questions.
I just did a quick look-see to see what other public library directors there are openings in libraries kind of similar to Guilderland. And there is one that, and I can send the link, sorry about this. I can send the link to this after the meeting, but there's one at New Britain Public Library in Connecticut, and it looks like their civil service requirements are pretty similar. And I think it's a pretty good description too, and maybe how similarly aligned to how we want to think about this position. Let me see if I can.
So I think there in one of the emails, there was a mention of having a committee to handle this.
Search committee.
So I wondered if it might make sense, since I think maybe to try and, get that committee formed, and maybe we task them with like initial couple steps, like this, figure out what the job posting is going to look like. And then, maybe one of the steps for the committee is to set out after talking to whoever, Tim Burke and whoever else, here's the steps we need to go through to kind of get this whole thing, accomplished. And that could be at least a starting, point. And because I don't, the details of the exact posting, I don't think it makes sense to try and hash that out with the full board. That's
No.
So maybe we, get that committee set up, and then we can talk about what they're supposed to be doing initially to kind of get things moving. I don't know.
So does anyone really want to be on the committee?
I would like to.
I'll be glad to volunteer for that.
I'm happy to serve on it, but I don't have to if there's other folks.
You're on like every committee, unless you really want to. I would
I mean,
like to.
Oh, okay.
You have the
Yeah,
most
yeah.
experience. I'm just trying to give you an out in case you're like,
Oh.
do I have to sign up? I'll do it.
Yeah, so
Okay, so I have Marcia, Barbara, Corey, and Leash.
I'll be bugging you.
So when I was hired, and obviously you have the complete freedom to do whatever you want. When I was hired, it was a 6-member committee and 3 were board members. There were 2 staff members and a member of the foundation. Lisa Brainerd, who's still on the foundation. So that is something you could consider. Up to you, of course.
I would suggest that maybe we initially just form a board ad hoc committee, and then as part of that committees, they can recommend to include some staff members in the interview process and whatever as it goes along. But initially, we can at least just get this up and running with a board committee so that they can start,
it's the board's
just
responsibility.
say,
to choose.
get the ball rolling and get the first steps out of the way, and just for efficiency purposes.
And I agree with Mike, because it'd be easier to write a job description and an ad without the input of the staff or the foundation if you go that route.
I can be as
Uh,
an officio, on the committee.
Barbara's,
Yes.
Oh, what I wanted to throw out is what Tim just mentioned, that I think a critical part of this is having somebody from the foundation and from the, from the staff, because, their perspectives, foundation hopefully bring in more of the community needs from the staff standpoint. What is it that you would like to see in a director? And the last thought that we could put in a job description, and I don't know the board's feeling on it, whether the individual has to live within a certain mile radius of the location. What Tim has probably found, there are many instances that it was really good that he lived fairly close by. And so if you have somebody living up in Saratoga or, towards Pittsfield or something, that's going to be difficult in the day-to-day emergencies and strategies that sometimes happen. So I think, we should sort of think about that as well.
so I agree, and there is several pros to that and one con to that. I personally think that it's very helpful in community relations to live in the same community that you work in. But at the same time, realistically speaking, finding someone who's qualified to do the job, what you could theoretically do is what they do at Colony, which is interview applicants that you like, but require them to live within a certain radius, or you can even require them to live in Guilderland after they take the job, because real estate is complicated. So you might say you have like a year to become a Guilderlandian after we hire you. Or you can reject that completely, like your net will be a lot wider if you accept applications from all over the place. And that if they're from far enough away, they'll know they have to move here anyway. Like if they're from New Britain, Connecticut, that's not doable, So there are lots of pros to that, including being available for, the minor emergencies that happen here. But certainly if you only ask for applicants from Guilderland, you're going to get a very small, so.
I don't think I want to narrow it down that severely, just because in this economy, like who's moving and paying 8% for a house right now? So I think we would shoot ourselves in the foot with that. If this was like a couple of years ago when it was 3%, yeah, someone might move. I don't think they're going to do it now. So I don't want to like totally negate some really qualified candidates. So we might want to make the
No.
net a little bit bigger, not like to Connecticut, but at least
Yeah, I mean,
you can drive there in an emergency.
like we hired somebody, like I'm on the board of directors of the Egg, and hired an executive director who happens to live in Kingston. So if she's willing to come up from Kingston, fine, if somebody lives farther away and they're willing to make that commute, why would you say, no, you can't, So, if that's the best qualified person, You know,
Well,
I don't think that you should say you have to buy a house in Guilderland or live in an apartment in Guilderland or do something in Guilderland, you know, I mean, because that might narrow the field a little too much.
Well, I think it removes a lot of diversity and equity from a potential candidate, right? If you're requiring him to live in a area that tends to be a little more expensive and things like that, I think that doesn't create an even playing field for all candidates. Like there might be a very great candidate in Albany or Schenectady, and I wouldn't want them to pass it over because they're like, oh, they only want a Guilderland, you know?
Well, Schenectady is closer to our house than Albany.
Well, that's what I'm technically a Schenectady mailing address.
But yeah, a lot of us
But you know
are.
what I mean? Yeah, so yeah, I'll just throw that out there from like a DEA perspective. I wouldn't want to narrow it down to just Guilderland. So I think there's a happy medium. We wouldn't say like, sure, someone from like Alberta, Canada, come on down, but like, you know, make sure you have a passport. So.
Wouldn't that come out in the interview process? Like, I don't think we should put that in the description of the position. And then once you interview them, if they live, you know, relatively far, then that's a question we would ask. What are your intentions about commuting? Are you ready to move? I mean, then that goes into the consideration of whether or not we're gonna hire that person,
I
right?
would want to tell them up front because I wouldn't want someone to come in, waste time for an interview and then be like, oh, you only want someone from here or here.
No, but we wouldn't say that. That's just a consideration.
Yeah, I think it's more, it's just like a factor because of the
Right.
issues.
Not a
If
requirement.
someone lives
Sure.
too far away, if they have an hour commute or whatever, then it's, you know, when there's just things happening at the library on days when they're not working or whatever, it's a lot less likely they're gonna kind of just stop by and, you know, see things or whatever. And if there's an emergency, it takes them a lot longer to get in and, you know, sort things out or whatever. So it's a factor, but it's, you know, maybe it's not a reason. You know, if they're by far the best candidate, but they live further away, then maybe it's worth it and you do that. But if it's a close call between a couple of people and one person lives right in town or, you know, the next town over and the other person lives, you know, a lot further away, then, you know, that could be a decider.
Yeah,
So,
sorry.
You know,
the way that I've seen this done, and it's actually done this way at Colony for all other employees other than the director they did require to move. But for all other employees, they had changed their rules originally. It had to be a Colony resident to be in there. And I live in Troy, so that would rule me out. But what they say is preference may be given to candidates who live in the town of Colony.
I
So
like
you
that
could
transparency.
say that in the job, if you wanted to include that, you could say preference may be given, just to give people that heads up, without saying it's going to be the only factor, you know?
Tim Burke seemed to think that there was going to be a good pool of candidates.
A good pool, you say?
Of candidates locally. I wouldn't want to impose out of the gate a residency requirement. I think for us, what's important is to hire the best possible person, given all the factors that we need to go into what that means. So I wouldn't put anything in about residency at the beginning. I would just wait to see what we get once we put out the RFP, so to speak. And then I think people will fall by the wayside. But if somebody lived 40 minutes away and was the absolute best person, it would be someone that would be given serious consideration. So I wouldn't put up a roadblock to begin with. That's fine.
So should we go ahead and form this committee?
Yes.
I have Marcia, Barbara, Corey, Elish, and me as ex officio, I guess is, maybe.
Or you're you're on informally.
Okay. So Marcia, Barbara, Corey, and Elish are the search committee, the volunteers. So do I have a motion to form the search committee?
motion to form an ad hoc search committee with those initial members set.
Is there a second?
Can I second?
Sure.
Okay, is there any more discussion about forming this committee?
Can you just explain to me what the purview of the committee is, what it is that they're going to be doing basically?
I think they're going to be initially working on the job posting. Just drilling down into that and making sure that it's accurate and it's a good posting. And then I think once that posting is up, they're going to be reviewing resumes, and I believe typically what happens with these committees is that if there are a number of qualified candidates, they would probably interview them virtually. And then recommend probably a top 3, maybe for board interviews in person. At least that's a search, similar to what I have experience in, so.
I
So
was,
they're going to be making an initial candidate cut?
Well, I think, it's important to like meet the people, like a virtual interview or something.
so I would suggest maybe the initial task for the committee might be, 1, to do this job posting, and 2, to put together an outline of the entire search and hiring process to present to the whole board, so everybody's on the same page about how we're going to do this. And then once the board has seen that, we can kind of, make sure everybody approves and agrees and, likes the way it's being done. But at least then, because right now it seems like, we don't have a established process for this, 'cause it's something that doesn't happen very often, and we're just kind of making it up as we go along. So maybe tell the committee to, as one of the first things to do, figure out the process and come back to the board, just to, inform the board of what it looks like, and then go from there. I don't know.
I guess it just depends on how many candidates you get.
Kathy, just one more thing that we did the last time. We advertised in like the national library journals. And I don't know if anybody's interested in doing that again this time or not.
Say it again, Barbara, I'm sorry, the National.
Library journals.
Right.
I don't know how much the job list posting is anymore, but I think it's reasonable to. Most positions probably of this big of a public library advertise there.
So I don't think, we didn't take a vote yet on
Oh,
our committee. We had
Personal.
a motion and a second. So all in favor of forming the committee, please say aye.
Hi.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
I just have one comment. Am I correct, Tim, you're leaving January 31st?
Yeah.
Okay, so time is of the essence.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should need, I'm not cutting anybody off, don't misunderstand me.
Yeah.
We need to move it quickly, and we can't get bogged down.
absolutely. So does the board need to approve the full job description once a draft has been created? So is that
Thank you.
a thing? Because otherwise, I mean, we still have our meeting in 2 weeks on the books. So the committee could come back with the job description and have it approved, but if you want it posted in the next 2 weeks, then there's no real way to have the board approval for that.
I mean,
You know, your job description has to include a salary range. And so that has to be discussed.
Yeah.
Can we discuss it now and then just let them do the posting, just in the spirit of,
Well, I think it'd be hard to do it now without, relevant comparisons for time on the job and I mean, what the people are earning now, in comparable libraries. Corey may have a good ability to grasp that, but I think and bring it to the committee and then share it with the board when we meet maybe on the 16th. Or whenever we're meeting, I forget. I thought it was the 16th or thereabouts. 21st. But that, to me, has to be in the job description.
Well, it does for New York State now for sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
So we'd want to do some research. I don't think we can come up with that.
right.
I think a good resource would be Tim Burke.
Yeah, and I have access
So
to
what
that.
I'm thinking is the committee members should get together after this meeting quickly and put together a time schedule for ourselves. What if
You
we
might want
should,
to elect a chairperson too.
This is just for the ad hoc committee,
Right.
things together.
Somebody needs to be.
So really,
in
this
charge.
committee is only working for like a few weeks.
well,
I
I
would
think
nominate Marcia.
search process.
Marsha, do you want to share it?
You're nominated, Marcia.
no, I really don't. I have personal reasons not to be able to do that. What I would suggest is that, is it required that the board pick a chair, or can the committee?
No, the committee can pick a chair.
Why don't we leave it at that? Because I'm just concerned about timing. People go away, vacation.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Well, I agree with the timing issue. I would be content to delegate as much as we can to this committee
Yeah.
to at least get things ball rolling. I would be comfortable with the committee coming up with the posting and getting that posted without having to come back to the board for approval again, because that's going to slow everything down and especially.
I would say we could email it around, but we can't do stuff by email. So
Yeah, I mean, that's the only sticking point is the salary. New York State's requiring that it be in the posting,
Okay, so
we,
the salary range.
we have,
we would have a meeting on the 21st. So if you have something that you want the board to look at, we can look at it on the 21st. Yeah.
For the board to look at. It's not a question whether we want it.
I think, yeah, the board really should approve the entire posting, not just, 4 of us.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Well, if you're bringing it to the meeting, then we'll approve the whole thing.
Who wants
So-
to be in charge of
I have a couple of
our
questions.
meeting?
First of all, is the position that's advertised, is it provisional or conditional for a year or some trial period? That's the first question. The second question is there a need to consider an interim appointment? And the third question is, last go around, approximately how many candidates were there?
I can tell you on the last question that they interviewed 6. I have no idea how many applied. So,
6 in person.
yeah.
I mean, that was prior to.
And there were 6 in-person interviews, and I believe there were 3 who had a second interview. And if I remember right, the second interview, Barbara, you may remember, was conducted during a board meeting. Might have been a special board meeting.
It was a
but-
special board meeting, right?
Great.
Right, just to move this along.
And what about the notion of, is there a trial or probationary or provisional period? And is there a need to consider an interim appointment?
Well, that would be, I think, an executive session item. If we're considering, specific personnel in terms of an interim appointment. So I think we would have to go into executive session for that.
But I'm not
discussion.
talking about necessarily putting forward a candidate. I'm talking about, is there going to be a gap that needs to be filled? Do we need to consider that possibility?
so.
I think
Yes
so,
to
is
both
that-
of
yeah.
those questions.
Yeah, it seems highly likely that there's going to be at least some gap, just given the timing. But maybe we could, it's just, I'm just throwing a suggestion out. Maybe since we have a meeting coming up, is it in 2 weeks or what?
It's 2 weeks, yeah.
Maybe we could ask Tim to have a kind of proposal for us on that meeting about, about how we might handle an interim appointment, and then we can discuss that, and if necessary, go into executive session if it involves particular candidates or whatever, and then we could kind of get that sorted out before it becomes necessary. Does that make sense?
What I would suggest is at the next meeting, we have a posting that's to be voted on, and also the committee can put together a plan as to how to move forward. So that we are, that it keeps rolling. I'm just one committee member, but if anyone has any suggestions from the full board about any of this, I think it'd be very helpful if we heard from you sooner rather than later. Certainly, when we put together questions, that's going to be crucial.
Oh, yeah.
To answer Ted's question, yes, about provisional status, yes, there's no list to my knowledge. Is that true, Natalie? Yeah, there's no list,
According to what's in here, it's
Yeah.
there is no list.
which means that whoever you hire will be informed. You'll have to inform them that they're provisional. So essentially, they don't have civil service protections until they take the exam and pass it.
I think we have to submit to the civil service, the head of civil service as well. So there's a lot of process to be done.
I know she has to leave, so I'm just getting her availability.
There was another question Ted had there about the possibility of an interim appointment. And Tim Burke might have a better idea on this, but I believe these searches usually take about 6 months. Nate, you would probably know. Or Natalie, you've seen directors, you've both been hired as directors, but at smaller
Itty-bitty
libraries.
library.
Yeah. I don't think they go quickly, do they?
Often not at large libraries.
Mhm.
A lot goes.
Albany spent a year looking for their current director. and did use a sort of a headhunting service, which I do not personally think is a justifiable expense. I think people will apply directly to the library rather than, you get emails all the time that like, Poughkeepsie, New York or Providence, Rhode Island needs a director, and those are the ones where there's a headhunter going on. But I don't personally see a need to pay anyone.
Okay. So we formed the committee and the committee is tasked with writing or putting together a posting before our next meeting and also a plan for moving forward. I suppose maybe interviewing or doing something about when we actually get candidates. So is that what the committee is tasked with?
Yep.
So
Doing the salary range, yeah.
I have a question. Since we're all here now, can we plan on having an executive session at the next one to have a proposed MOA, right? Memo of understanding for provisional people so that we can discuss it at the next meeting?
sure.
So, Tim, will you talk to Chris about that?
Sure. So it would be a proposed MOA with person X, or whoever it might be, a recommendation or a choice of this group for an acting director.
Yeah.
Yep. Let me send myself an email.
I don't know the answer to the question, but ad hoc committees need to be public.
Not this one, I
I don't think this one does,
know, because it's gonna be,
because it will just hold us up.
Yep.
And I think that's correct. We do not have to have public meetings on this.
No.
Okay.
I think my understanding is you have to announce a board meeting, then you have to go into executive session, discuss your candidates, and then come out of executive session.
No, but I'm just talking about.
For the ad hoc
committee.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think it has to be public, and I don't think it has to be an ad.
I'm sure Tim Burke can.
tell us, yeah.
I'll get it up.
Okay.
Sorry, one more question, since Jenna's not here and I'm sort of trying to figure out how she used to do things. Tim, are you gonna announce it the next meeting and all that? I can put the agenda together.
To make a formal announcement that I'm retiring.
No, the meet that we're having a meeting and that there's an executive session. I mean,
I can do the announcing of,
I don't know how
in
that's
fact, I
done.
already posted the announcement for the December 21st board meeting. Is that
Oh,
clear?
okay, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, okay, that's out there in the.
Okay, great, so that's cool.
Next year.
However, your, whatever you wrote up for, an agenda for tonight or for the 21st, I
I don't
need
have one
the
for tonight. I have one for the 21st. And
I
I have
needed to
the
make the board
meetings.
packet, so.
Right, I don't know how to make that.
Well, if you just send it to me, I'll put it in the packet and put the packet together. And Kathy and perhaps others had, Elise, real quick question. Since we have 7, 8, 9 people here, can we figure out right now if we have a quorum for December 21st? 6 people who can attend in person?
Yeah, I'll be here
I
too.
will.
I
Okay,
do.
3, 4. Okay, so we should have a quorum, if your plans don't change, so that's good. Yep. No, thank you.
Good luck with the concert.
We can do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the doodle.
does what?
poodles- The doodle, whatever they're called.
I can doodle for things too.
Yes, you're good at doodle polls.
I doodled for this, so.
That takes away a big worry about the 21st,
Yeah.
Because losing a meeting at this time would kind of stink,
Not good.
Yeah. So
We having a Christmas.
we often have a holiday party. At this point, if you want to have one, I would suggest you do it after Christmas itself or maybe after New Year's Day. But the board has done that before. In fact, it used to be with, the board and spouses. I think a lot of things changed during COVID and then construction too, but the board and spouses, the director and assistant director, and spouses. And then, I think the top two or so foundation.
It's at the library.
It was at Tesoro's usually.
They're closing.
Yeah,
They're
So-
closed.
Oh, they closed already.
but, so you could do it at the library and have it catered, or you could, I think it'd be nice at the library, but,
Yes.
anyway.
I mean, I could have it at my house if you like. But no, I withdraw that.
You're home.
Is this being publicly streamed right
It
now?
is, yeah.
Barbara, do you have my cell phone number? And when this ends, you could call and I can put you on speaker with Marcia and I?
I do not.
Okay.
Why don't you text it to me?
Oh. Okay.
You're also,
Or do you have Marcia's?
Yes.
Yes, I have
Can you
Marcia's.
call your phone?
No, because it's being charged.
Okay, I'll text it to you. We'll be
Hold up a
fine.
piece of paper like that.
you mean you don't want your personal phone number on a streaming
not
meeting?
Mine says-
No spam calls.
And Corey, you can FaceTime me.
Oh, I don't have an iPhone.
I do, but it's not working. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be like the catch and gym.
Okay,
Job
perfect.
posting and established process, that's it. Right, that's what I have for the committee.
Okay, we have a quorum for, apparently for December 21st, and that will include an executive session to discuss a potential interim director while we apparently do a 6 month or long research for a new director.
If you can do it sooner, good for you. So
Yeah,
That's gonna be tough.
Hopefully, we can have an MOA by that time.
I would think Chris can do that
We
quickly.
can leave those salary blank or whatever details we need to discuss. Okay, great.
okay. Is there any more business for this special meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Marcia, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Very good. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Or we'll get to you in a minute.
Yeah, I'll just call you in a sec.